Let's begin. Today's August 20th, 2024, and we're solving the Daily Turing Machine Puzzle. Today's puzzle uses the following 6 criteria cards. Criteria card 6, 9, 14, 18, 19, and 20. And the puzzle uses the orange verification cards. The code above is your way to get more information on today's puzzle by searching the code on turingmachine.info. Let's go solve. So in the grid above, we've got our 6 criteria cards. On the top row, we've got criteria card A, criteria card B, and criteria card C. On the bottom row, we've got criteria card D, criteria card E, and finally criteria card F. Criteria card A looks at our middle digit, the square digit, and the Turing machine will let us know whether its value is an even digit or an odd digit. Criteria card B will look at the 3-digit solution and will let us know how many of those 3 digits are 3. Are there no 3s? Is there a single 3? Perhaps 2? Maybe even all 3 are 3. Criteria card C will look at our 3 digits, triangle, square, and circle, and will let us know which one is the absolute smallest. So should triangle be the smallest? Should square be the smallest? Or should circle be the smallest? Criteria card D again looks at our 3 digits, triangle, square, and circle, but this time we'll add up the 3 digits and the Turing machine will let us know whether that sum is an even quantity or an odd quantity. Criteria card E takes a look at our first 2 digits, triangle and square, adds them up, and compares that sum to the number 6. So should the sum be less than 6? Should it be equal to 6? Or should the sum be greater than 6? And finally, criteria card F will take a look at the 3-digit solution, but this time will give us some details on its structure, so to speak. Specifically, it can tell us whether there are no repetitions among the 3 digits, as in the example 125. It could let us know that it's a double number where there's a single digit repeated once, as in the example 112, or it can even tell us that it's a triple number where it's a single digit repeated 3 times, as in the example 222. And remember, the objective of today's puzzle is to find that unique 3-digit code that abides by all of the 6 criteria cards that we just described. And we're going to start off with an initial proposal of 314. So the first thing I want to find out is I want to know a little bit about that middle digit, the square digit, and whether it's an even digit or not. So let's go ahead and test criteria card A. Okay, so notice that I did choose an odd 1 for square. The Turing machine does not approve of that, so it's basically telling me that the square digit is actually even. So let's go ahead and type that up in our notes in section A. And that is that square is an even digit. And since it is even, that means it cannot be odd, and so we'll cross out all of the odds for square. Okay. The next thing I want to find out is what the sum of the 3 digits is. So let's go ahead and test criteria card D. Okay, so again, the Turing machine does not approve of my proposal. Since we are adding all the digits, let's go ahead and do that. 3 plus 1 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8. That's an even quantity, but the Turing machine does not approve of that. So it's telling me that the sum of the 3 digits is actually odd. So let's go ahead and type that up in section D. And that again is that triangle plus square plus circle should be odd. And since it is equal to an odd, let's see what that tells us. Notice that again, or remember that we do have an even digit in square. If we want the overall sum to be odd, that means that I actually need another even and an odd. And the reason for that is, since I'm already starting off with an even for square, I do need to add an odd to it, so that an even plus an odd does give me an odd. But in order to remain an overall sum of odd, that means I have to add an even to it. So that means that I'm actually looking at a solution that has two evens and a single odd. So let's go ahead and let's see. Since I have a little bit of space here, let me say that we'll say the solution is two evens and one odd. So let's see if I can reach the end of this line here, and let's see how well we do. So I apologize that the computer's lagging a little bit. There we go, not too bad. Okay, so now we don't know which one is even, or whether those evens are a double, which means that we could test criteria card F and see if they're all unique. That would inform us, or if there's a double. So I don't think it can be a triple, because remember, we do have at least an absolute smallest. And of course, if you have a triple number, they're all the same. So we know we can exclude triple number. But let's go ahead and test criteria card F. Okay, so again, notice that the Turing Machine does disapprove of my proposal. Notice that I do have 3, 1, 4. They are all unique, meaning no repetitions, but it does not approve of that. It's actually telling me that there is a double number. So let's go ahead and type that up in our notes for section F, that the solution has a double number. And we'll just add that it's both are even, right? Since we already know that we have two evens. Okay, so we are looking at the same two even digits and then that one odd. Okay, well, that completes this round. We did complete our 3 Turing tests. We're now going into the phase where we'll be discussing how to construct a good second round proposal. So notice that we did not test criteria card B. That lets us know how many 3s there are. Well, at this point, since we know we only have one odd, it's sort of a 50-50. It's either there or it's not. And then we didn't also test the criteria card C, which tells us which is the absolute smallest. And we didn't test criteria card E, that lets us know something about the sum of the first 2 digits. So again, for the number of 3s, it's either going to be there or it's not. And I don't really see anything having to do with order per se. So I think it really literally is. It's either there or it's not. It's not like we're choosing among odds. So actually, yeah, the only scenario I see where maybe 3 is relevant is in the sum of the first 2 digits. Obviously, we know square is even, but if triangle were odd, that may influence the sum if it's a 3. And I guess, yeah, in part, maybe even if it's a sum, it may even, if it's not a 3, then it'll point to either a 1 or a 5, depending on what the overall, the sum of the first 2 digits is. Something interesting about criteria card C, though, to find the absolute smallest, since we do have a pair of evens, we know that, and I'll just put a note here, is that the smallest has to be odd. So let's go ahead and type that up just as a reminder, so that we don't forget. The smallest is odd. Okay, and that's because if we do have a pair of evens and there has to be an absolute smallest, well, it must be the odd. So that might also influence whether it's a 3 or not. And then, of course, we do have that sum. So typically, sometimes when we have an even in either triangle or square, and we have this criteria card where the sum of the first two digits, it could be that it adds up to 6. But in this case, since we know it's a double even, the only thing we can say for the sum, it's either, if they're both even, is that it's going to be 2, 2 or 4, 4. So it's either going to be less than 6 or greater than 6, not exactly 6. And so that brings up a good point. If the only way you can get 6 is if you add 2 evens or 2 odds. So in fact, the sum cannot be 6 because the evens are paired up. And even if they weren't 2 evens, if it's 1 odd and 1 even, there's no way to get a 6. So at least now we can eliminate that sum equals 6 option from criteria card E. So we should make sure to test something that's either smaller or larger than 6. And so let's see. And I guess we could also eliminate, since we know the smallest is odd, there's no way it could be 5. So I think it's safe to cross out the remaining 5s. Okay, so that's very interesting. It makes sense, right? If it's the smallest, if the odd is 5 and it's the smallest, what else could, there's nothing else that the 2 evens could be. So yeah, it makes sense that we could cross out the 5s. Okay, so now we know that we're either dealing with a 3 or a 1. Now the question is, should it be triangle or circle? And so I could see a case where, yeah, maybe the odd is circle and it's either a 1 or a 3. We could say if the sum is less than, it'll be 2, 2. If it's greater than 6, that is, it'd be 4, 4. So that's possible. What about if triangle were the odd? So obviously circle would mimic what square is, and so somehow the sum, but that may be a bit too complicated. Let's see, we do have some options here. The sum is less than 6, 1, 2, 3, 1. Yeah, so triangle would have to be 1 or 3. So yeah, so those are less than 6. Greater than 6 would be, actually it would be 1, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2 would be less. There's only one case where it's greater than, and that would be 3, 4. So that's interesting. So it'd be 3, 4, 4 if it were greater. But typically, some of these cards kind of play off of each other. So, and again, going back to the sum that's less than 6, I think there are too many options. 1, 2, 1, 4. So it almost would have to default to say 3, 2, 2. I don't know. I think I'm leaning more towards it's either going to be 2, 2 and a 1 or a 3 or 4, 4. So I'm going to say, oh, and remember, of course, yeah, that the odd has to be the smallest. So yeah, that's true. If it's a 3, it would have to be 4, 4. Because there's nothing, yeah, so for that reason, I'm almost leaning towards 1. And what about over here? Over here, though, if it were 4, 4, you'd have to choose between 1 and 3. They're both smaller than 4, 4. So yeah, so let's go ahead and say 4, 4, 1 and see where that takes us. Okay, so part of the reason for choosing 4, 4 was to see, let's test criteria card E and the sum of the first 2 digits. Okay, yeah, so the sum of the first 2 digits is indeed greater than 6. So let's go ahead and put that in our notes, and that was in for section E, or criteria card E, and that is that triangle plus square is greater than 6. And since it's greater than 6, actually we may be able to deduce that there has to be a 3, because I don't see any possibility of 1 working. Yeah, well, at least not for triangle. Let me be clear, I was about to say circle, but that's not the case. So I know triangle can't be 1, and so at this point, I guess the possibilities are 3, 4, 4, or 4, 4, 1, and 3. So let me see where, I guess let me put in section E, just to list out the possibilities. So in order to have a sum that's greater than 6, 2 cannot work. So it's either going to be 3, 4, 4, and I think that may be the only case, because triangle would be our odd. The other cases would be 4, 4, either 1 or 4, 4, 3. So 4, 4, 1 or 4, 4, 3. Okay, so we still have to test whether there is a 3 or not, and which one is the smallest. Remember, the smallest is also odd. So I don't think square can be the smallest. And luckily I did not choose it. So I think if we test just criteria card C, well, let's see. I did choose a 1, but it won't tell me whether it's a 3 or not. Now I didn't choose 3. So is there a difference between 3, 4, 4 and 4, 4, 3? 3, 4, 4 and 4, 4, 3. In fact, I don't think there's, well, the only thing that differentiates it is which is the smallest. Is it triangle or circle? But if it happens to be circle, then I would have to test whether it's a 1 or a 3. And I am leaning towards it being circle. I just may have to test both of them. I don't know if there's a way to deduce one versus the other. Let's see. Just based on 3s, yeah, there is Which one's or where is the smallest? Yeah, it's a toss-up. I don't know if I can just test one and deduce the other. If I find out the circle is the smallest, how do you decide? Yeah, let's just go ahead. I'm going to test criteria card C. Okay, so yes, circle is the smallest. So that is criteria card C. And let's go ahead and type that up. That circle is the smallest. Okay, and since circle is the smallest, we know it cannot be 4. It has to be odd. And I guess it can't be 2 as well. It has to be that odd. Okay, so that means that, yeah, we are looking at 4, 4. Is that right? Yeah, because the sum is greater than 6. So that means that triangle is neither 2 nor 3. So we are looking at 4, 4. So that means square can't be 2. Now the question is, do we have a 3 or not? And yeah, we're going to have to test criteria card B as well. Okay, and we do not have a 3. The Turing machine agrees that there should be no 3 in our solution. So yeah, we'll just type up the note as the solution has no 3-digit. And so, yeah, it looks like our answer is 441. Let's just go verify. Well, let me type it up and then we'll verify. Okay, and just really quick, yes, the middle digit is even. Yeah, we do have 2 evens and an odd. There's no 3. The smallest is odd, yes. And it's circle. The sum is odd, it is. The sum of the first 2 is greater than 6, it is. And so let's go ahead and cross out 3, 4, 4 as well as 4, 4, 3. Okay, and the solution has a double number. It sure does. Well, it looks like a winner, but let's just go and verify that the solution is 441. Fantastic. Okay, so now let's actually see how we did versus a Turing machine. So we did do 6 tests overall. That's always good when you have the number of tests equal to the number of criteria cards. That's usually a winner, even if we do tie with a Turing machine. And notice that we did do ADF in the first round all wrong, and then we did the other 3 tests and they were all correct. So ADF in the first round. So ADF, and then second round BCE, and they were all correct. Wow, okay, so we did beat it by 2 questions. Okay, the best, I think the fact that the first round, even though we got all X's, we did sort of figure out that it was going to be two equal, even, and we deduced that the smallest had to be odd. I think that was very helpful. And of course, you know, just, we didn't let the incorrect answers be a stumbling block. We learned from those mistakes. We adjusted, and we were able to get a good second round proposal. Well, what do you think? Add your thoughts to the comments. If I missed something, please let me know, and give it a thumbs up so that more people can find this channel. And of course, make sure to subscribe to not miss the next video. Well, until next time, have a great one.